Good evening, everybody. Welcome to CW Live. My name is Chris Webb. First of all, an apology there for the delay in getting everything started. A couple of tech issues, but here we are, and hopefully everything holds up well. You'd have seen the news today, undoubtedly, about the step closer to Royal Mail being taken over by the VP group led by Daniel Kretinsky. So we felt, as a union, Dave Ward, our General Secretary, and Martin Walsh, our Deputy General Secretary Postal, they wanted to come on, they wanted to speak to you about it, give you a bit more background information, deal with some of the comments that have been coming through, and then give you the opportunity to pick up on some of your questions. So it's a really important session. We need as many people on as possible, so get in there, share the link, let us know where you're watching from, let us know how long you've been in the union. We'll get some of that up on screen as well. But the purpose of tonight really is a nice short and sharp session where you get as much information as possible, you understand exactly where we're at, and that we give everyone a role going forward. And we don't see it as just Dave's job, Martin's job, the executive's job to handle this moment we're in, another difficult moment. It's all of our role to have something to do during this period. So without any further ado, I'm going to ask Dave, our General Secretary, to open the session and give you some background. Over to you, Dave.
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks for coming on at relatively short notice again, but it's a huge moment. I'm sure our members are worried by what they've heard today, and we want to try and explain as much as we can, albeit there'll be further sessions like this, further communications from the union, and we're going to talk to you about exactly what we see as your role in helping us protect you, your jobs, your terms and conditions, and indeed, what's going to happen across the country, because I think this is an unprecedented moment in the history of the UK where a company as big as something like Royal Mail, that has a sort of national infrastructure that's crucial to the UK, is under a takeover bid from somebody who, an equity investor from abroad, an entire takeover. If that was to be successful, what that means is that Royal Mail would no longer be a privatised company on the stock exchange. It would be taken off of the stock exchange. And obviously we've got to work out everything that flows from that. What we understand to have happened today is that the company have received a second bid. That in itself wasn't surprising given what's happened in the last couple of weeks. And the company's response to that bid, an enhanced bid, I think it's around about £3.70 per share, worth a total of about 3.5 billion. They will now go into a 14-day period where the shareholders get involved in this debate, the big shareholders in particular, and Vesa will start probably communicating via their representatives, their banks and that, directly to the shareholders. It's not a foregone conclusion that the bid will be successful, and I want to explain a couple of the hurdles that they've still got to overcome. So first of all, the shareholders have got to agree, as we understand it, to sell their shares. But I think what we know about the markets and the type of bid and the initial reactions, it's difficult to see how they're not, some of the shareholders, likely to sell some of their shares on the value of the bid that's been put forward. The second area that will have to happen before anything is concluded is that the government will have to undertake a thorough national investigation, if you like, under the National Security Act, as to whether they believe this is right and proper for the country, for them as a government. And what that will involve, and what Royal Mail have said today, is that they're now going to go into a period where they will start to talk about what they call the contractual undertakings that Vesa will give. Included in that will be commitments around your terms and conditions, around pensions, around a range of issues that the company will put forward. And then at that point, over that 14 days, we'll get to know a little bit more about what's going on. So the government's position is vital in this. And that's an opportunity for us to leverage our views on this that we want to talk to you more about over the coming weeks. And it's no foregone conclusion that Vesa will overcome that hurdle, particularly when you consider the political situation in the UK. From what we know, the timescales of that government intervention kicks in It could be a long intervention, it could be a short intervention, and we're obviously, one of the things that we're already seeking is a meeting with the government, and I'm sure that meeting will take place. So where are we with this? What's our view of it? Well, the union had a conference a couple of weeks back, and we set out a very clear policy, and Martin will talk a little bit about later about how we want to get that policy understood by the branches, and we want to get you behind that policy. So essentially our view is this: this is not right that this should be sold entirely to Vesa, and we don't believe that's right for our members. We don't believe that's right for the country, and we will look at that. We'll have to listen to what Vesa are going to say. I'll come on to that in a second. But the second consideration we have to also make, we are equally worried and concerned about the current regime, the Royal Mail Group board as it sits currently. We do not believe that they've managed this company properly. In our press release today, we've made the point again, they've grossly mismanaged Royal Mail. And whereas Royal Mail say the reason that they've become vulnerable to such a bid is because of the government not changing the USO, our view is they become vulnerable because they've mismanaged the finances, mismanaged relationships with the union and with employees, and we're just not in a good place with the current board. So that has to be said. We're not going to hide that. That's our view. We don't support the current board's position in terms of how they're dealing with the business, how they're dealing with growth, their lack of really direction in terms of vision for the future. So those two things are what we're saying. But thirdly, what we've said is this is a moment where we can genuinely start to explore different models of ownership. Now, the union's policy for many years has been renationalisation. There's a general election coming up. We have to acknowledge that in the current environment, political environment, that will be difficult. But there are other models, business models, that range from things like mutuals, not-for-profit, public benefit companies that we have already been exploring with the Labour Party. So we are going to continue to put the case that actually the right thing to do here is to create a different model of ownership. We think that would mean changing the board structures. We think that would mean changing the way that business leaders are remunerated. We basically think that customers and workers have to have a much greater say over the running of the company. So we're going to put all of those three positions forward, but tonight's about you having an opportunity to talk to us and open up with some questions, and we'll try and give you as much info as we can.
And I think a concise sort of opening statement there. We can see there's 4,500 of our members on, which is fantastic given we called the session at such late notice. So please, as I said earlier, keep sharing the link, keep getting out there, making sure as many colleagues as possible join. And of course, the session will be available afterwards on Catch Up. Martin, I want to bring you in now if I can. I've seen, we want to get into some of the challenges that the members are putting to the union in a moment with you, Dave, and yourself. But first thing I want to come into is like the anxiety involved in this. This is a huge moment of uncertainty, and let's just call it what it is. This is a key part of the UK's infrastructure being potentially taken over by a foreign equity firm. A huge moment politically, for infrastructure, for Royal Mail workers. Members are worried and they're concerned, and you assume it's safe to say they have every right to feel that way. What would you say to our members in the way of reassurance and what the union are going to be doing in the coming weeks and months?
Yeah, Chris, in terms of this, I think it's unprecedented what's happening. And if you look here, it's probably unsurprising in some ways because the way Royal Mail have run down this company for so long, whether it's quality, whether it's growth, whether it's revenue, whether it's morale, you've seen that over the last couple of years. And they've obviously chosen this time to make this bid. And our members, all 110,000 of them, will be extremely worried. They know Royal Mail hasn't been working for them, but they will also be worried that this company may be broken up, deliveries franchised, outsourcing, attacks the terms and conditions pension surplus. And I think we need to obviously give assurance. There is only one group out of Royal Mail and Vaser who's going to be batting for them. It's the CWU. And there might be some problems with the leave over from a dispute. But what we now face, we can only be strong in protecting terms and conditions. The attack from outsourcing, attack from franchising, attack from breaking up the company, if we're united as a union and we're strong together in protecting our members in the future.
Thanks, Martin. Really, really good. Dave, I want to come to the issue of EP Group, Vaser, Daniel Kretinsky, because there was some controversy during the dispute. Like, I can well remember, a previous Royal Mail CEO, Simon Thompson, going on the television, writing you letters, going on the workplace platform. There's no chance that this is going to happen. There's no discussions that there's no takeover bid. There's going to be no takeover from Vaser, and yet here we are. But something else that was a point of discussion was whether the union had engaged Vaser at that point. But I guess more my question for tonight and right at this point is, does the union intend to engage Vaser directly, or are we going to just leave it to Royal Mail to do that? Or are you intending the stuff you talked about, stuff Martin's talked about previously in terms of protections we want to see for our members? Are you going to take them straight to Vaser?
Yes, we will, and Vaser have already contacted the union in the last week or so to set up a meeting. We haven't had a discussion with them because there's regulatory protocols that they have to adhere to. But in this 14-day period, we're certainly going to say that we want to meet them and beyond that. And the indication from Vaser, and this is the right thing to do, whatever your views are on this, you have to get to the bottom of what exactly it is they're trying to do. What's their plan for the future? In our press release today, we're saying, why would anyone support this when there's no clear plan or vision for the future? Now, there are some interesting stories that are appearing in the press. There are many journalists who have contacted us in the last 48 hours saying that they're hearing that a lot of assurances will be given. But at the end of the day, these people are business people, but we know what we need to do. And I want to echo what Martin said. The best way to deal with this situation, and the only way, is for you guys to recognise that we have to be united in every part of what we do in the coming weeks to protect your interests and protect the services for the public in the UK. We will have a big influence over what's going to happen. And that's clear in the way that Vaser have been planting stories that they want to work with the union, and they're willing to explore our concerns. And now we've got many concerns about what their intentions are, but also about what the Royal Mail Group have been doing. And it's really what happens now in the next few weeks with how we get together as a union, how we use our political influence in this debate, which is significant. This political debate is going to be really, really interesting to see unfold. The government will be, as they always are, worried about this. The Labour Party will need to come out and say, and they have said some helpful things today. So there's a lot to talk about here with the members, with the politicians, with Vaser and with the company, and we're going to be right at the centre of that.
Today in Royal Mail's press release that they talked about seeking commitments from EP Group, Vaser, Daniel Kretinsky on stuff like the 6-day USO or I'm assuming their version of the 6-day USO that they're putting forward, stuff like the sort of Royal Mail standing as a company. But one thing that stuck out to me that they didn't seek commitment for was an ongoing commitment for industrial relations. And I wondered whether you and Dave, when you're going to be having those discussions with EP Group and Vaser, would be putting that on the table, because I think you can see by the comments, you can see when you're out and about meeting our members that people are sick and tired of the way they've been treated. I think Dave, in the press statement today, said that the company had been grossly mismanaged, and I think at this juncture, surely we got to be putting on the table when we're meeting these people, as well as things to not break the company up, the social fabric of the in every community, protect pensions, protection, etc. Are you and Dave going to be putting on a table a different way of working with the union and actually, looking after postal workers?
I think it's important if we're going to meet Vesa, and what we do is clearly get some legal guarantees, and that should be no outsourcing, no franchising, no break up the company, no attack of pension surplus, and no basically destroying the service. And what they've obviously Royal Mail's put on the table is around the optimised delivery window, where they said first class 6 days a week. Now we're up for exploring that with Royal Mail. We've said that, but we want to understand that and trial it before we fully support it. So I think the other issue we've said all along, morale in the workplace, industrial relations as a whole, has to transform. Too many of our members see their workload unachievable, they see quality down, and they see pressure like never before on them. And any new owner, or even the current owner, needs to transform that, change that.
Thanks, Martin. Really, really useful. Dave, I want to talk to you about a group of members, perfectly entitled to their view, who are in the comments and are taking the view that I gave up 18 days of strike action. You guys signed this agreement, and then everything we said we were fighting against in terms of a takeover from Vesa or a takeover from a company like them is now happening. And those people laying the blame for that at the doorstep of the union. I mean, I know, and I can see it in the comments, by the way, as well, like the majority of our members will understand there's a Tory government, there's a billionaire here trying to force his way through. The landscape is very challenging for the union, and it is not the union's fault. But what would you say to those members who are laying the blame for the situation we find ourselves in today at the doorstep of their trade union?
Well, I mean, that's just complete nonsense, and it shows, I think, a lack of understanding of the way the world works, the way private companies work, the way that billionaires operate. We didn't have a dispute, and we could never have a dispute about a shareholder of a company. I mean, it just doesn't happen. This is part of a failure of privatisation. And it's part of a situation that I would ask those members to engage with the facts and engage with. There's no point in people putting that sort of stuff around because it's just not true. I'd like to engage with those members and talk to them in a sensible way to convince them that they're wrong, because they are wrong. And, you just can't have disputes. So what did happen during the dispute? The union warned that we thought this is where it might lead to. And that was appropriate for us to do. You want an honest opinion here tonight? I think possibly the way that we went at that, if it was about to happen then, maybe they got cold feet and waited until after the dispute. But you can never stop a private company and a major shareholder who happens to be a billionaire in an equity investor company saying that they're going to make a bid for a company. The right process now, including on pensions, I saw a comment on there about, are our pensions going to be lost? No, we will fight for your pensions. And we're going to influence this debate, but the way that we influence this debate will be over the coming weeks to engage with the members more, get the members behind the union. I think the members will support our position because the reality is, what we're saying is, we've got major concerns about Vesa, we've got major concerns about the current board, and actually there's a better way forward if politicians listened and the country listened with a different ownership model for the business going forward.
Thank you, Dave. Martin, Dave touched there on the issue of pensions, and I've got to say there's lots of members, again, completely understandably, in the comments asking the questions about pensions. So Steve Braddon, I can see in the comment, is saying, I suppose I'll lose my pension now after paying in for the last 36 years. John Gorman's asking, will the union be going to the government and Labour to put in place a block on this sort of pension pot, and any excess pensions cash can't be touched. So the issue of pensions is a really, really big one, put there by Steve and John really eloquently. So, what are we going to be doing on that, Martin?
So let's give some reassurance. Those people who used to be in the final salary scheme, there's a Crown guarantee on that. That is completely safe. The second thing is the care scheme, which ended in 2018. There is 1.2 billion surplus in that, and we're determined to protect that scheme. It's in our conference proposition. We will not allow anyone to attack that, and that we're on record. Now, the CDC scheme, which hasn't yet kicked in, is due in on the 1st of September. And clearly, whilst this process is going on, that won't be totally confirmed. But our commitment, and we've said it all along, we will protect our members' pensions. We're going to protect from franchising, outsourcing. We want to improve our members' terms and conditions going forward. Can I just say one thing from the dispute, because I know it's out there, and it's important people understand that, and we'll have another show on this. This union faced a decision. That decision was there agreement or an imposed deal, or was there administration? And no government can use public money, to fund a private company. Every single postal carrier would have taken the government to court for using state money. Every single bit of advice we had, we would have lost 30,000 jobs overnight. So when people say, was the agreement great? We will never say it's a great deal, but the alternative was thousands and thousands of job losses, and that would have been the beginning, not the end.
Thank you, Martin. Spot on. Dave, Stephen Noble's come in with a really pertinent and strong question. He said, we didn't stop privatisation last time. He's a great union supporter. He makes that point clear. But said, how can we stop this sale? Is it about stopping it, Dave, or is it about recognising, where the balance of forces are and using our influence to make sure that we protect our members? So, I think that would be good for members to know, are the union against this sale, or are the union in there negotiating?
So the starting point on that question is privatisation. We didn't stop privatisation because every single political party in the UK signed up to a version of it, because at that time they were saying Royal Mail was a basket case. What we did do was get the most important agreement that we ever had as a union, that protected us for probably 8 or 9 years following privatisation. And it's that agreement, the Agenda for Growth agreement, that was the key agreement of the last 30, 40 years for this trade union, in the sense that it gave us that protection. It stopped people attacking us. Where are we with this? We're starting out by saying very clearly today, we do not think this is right, that Vesa are going to take this over. And we've made that very clear in our position. But equally, we have to say that we do not believe that the current regime are running Royal Mail correctly, and we do not see a future with them as the board. So our position is we're going to maximise that to try and see if we can get a different approach with the political parties, and we will definitely be putting on the table alternative models that will change board structures. Now with Vesa, we have a duty, and you would expect us to do this, because these are forces that are in the world, in capital, in the way that companies operate, in the way that the world operates. You just can't say, well, we're going to stop it. I don't personally believe that any of our members think that we can just say that and then not do anything. You have to get in and engage with people. And our commitment is we will engage and we will put all of the concerns that our members have put forward. And the outcome of that will really depend on what the government says, on what Labour says, if this is a prolonged debate, and on what Vaser say to us, and on how strong our members are in getting behind the union's position as it currently stands today. Now, until we've had those conversations, that will be our position. We don't agree with this. But we have got to get in there and start talking about it from your point of view. All of the things that matter to you, that matter to the country, all the things that matter in services. And I'll say it again, we have an opportunity to have a big influence over what's going to happen here. If that wasn't true, Vaser would not have written to us asking to meet us. If you listen to some of the commentary from key commentators in the media, they are saying that the union's role will be pivotal in whether or not this moves forward. So we've got lots we can do here, but we're going to come out and talk to you about that in the coming weeks. Our reps are going to be out there talking to you in line with the conference policy. We're here to protect your interests. What Martin said is the key point. The people who have really got your interests at heart here is the CWU. You're all part of the CWU. Let's keep a united position on this, and one way or another we'll come out with the best possible way of protecting you, your jobs, and the services of Royal Mail.
Thanks, Dave, and thanks to Stephen for the question there. Martin, I want to come back to the workplace. We've got a question from Gary Harvey, who says he's moved up over 100 places in the seniority list in the last year and a half. That's just indicative of how many people are leaving in his office, and I think we're seeing that replicated across the country. And a question from an app, I don't know if it's aptly named, Sausage Brains. Sausage Brains is saying, regardless of who owns us, are there any plans for more manageable walks? So I guess what I'm saying in putting this angle of questioning to you, Martin, is like alongside these really big ticket issues, pensions, not breaking the company up, there's a point here where our members are saying to us, like, we'll listen to you on this stuff, but we're really struggling day to day. So, you're going to meet Vaser, you meet Royal Mail regularly. What are the union doing to resolve these issues which exist for our members day to day?
Okay, look, let's deal with the first one. There is a real attrition problem within Royal Mail, whether that's existing members or whether that's new entrants. I think it scales back to 1988, when we had a revolving door, and there was a dispute at that stage called the DRAS dispute, where it was difficult to recruit and it was almost impossible to retain. And we're trying to meet the company to try and get over some of these issues, because they are linked to workload, they're linked to quality. No one wants to work for Royal Mail if every day they come off their rest day, their walk hasn't gone out. And we are engaging the company to try and resolve some of the failed revisions. We're engaging the company to try and resolve the later starts. And we're also engaging the company on the USO. Part of what we're discussing on the USO is delivery points. The amount of delivery points people will go to will reduce. Some of the modelling we're looking at is around 10% reduction in actual delivery points. And it works out around 40% less Saturdays for units. And obviously, we're engaging with Royal Mail on this. We're going to try and model this, and we're going to try and trial it across the four nations. Again, our conference supported that policy. But I think what's important now is two things, Chris. Those two motions we carried at conference and the theme of reconnection is we've now got to get into workplaces, hold gate meetings right across this union over those two crucial issues, and helping our members with workload, retention issues, and the problems they face every single day from a struggling, basically environment.
Let me come back to you on that, Martin. I mean, really good answer, by the way, and I'm sure people are pleased to hear that. Before conference, you were calling, obviously you set out in your election on the reconnect strategy. You've been talking to people about how to do that. You've been getting our field officials on board with that strategy. We've gone to conference, which is now a couple of weeks ago. You've re-emphasised that. Motion gets carried in the amnesty on reconnecting, on holding workplace meetings. At this point, it does feel as if we're not seeing enough of those meetings taking place at pace. How important is it, at this moment now, that every branch gets those meetings going, every divisional rep, every regional official gets those meetings going, executive, yourself, Dave, and we get the union out there to make sure we are not only capturing the thousands of members who are on here, which is great, but we're doing it where it matters in the workplace.
I think it's key. It's essential, in fact. What we're facing now has never been faced by Royal Mail, any leadership of the CWU. Two things. One is 100% takeover, and the other thing is a change to the USO. And, we recognise it's tough in the workplace. Some meetings I do, you're always going to get some stick. You've got to allow members to give you stick because they faced, a traumatic 2 years. But we can only reconnect if we get into those offices, start engaging why the agreement was better than the alternative. Administration would have meant thousands and thousands job losses. What we've got to now do is get back in there, ensure we resolve our members' problems, but we also, any owner we have, we've got to make sure we protect their terms and conditions and improve the environment we're in. And also, if we're going to change a USO, we can't change a USO to a 3 or 4 day model or a speeded delivery option like Germany, where they delay first class. And that is why we need to engage every single unit. We're going to have another meeting with our divisional reps and branches. Everyone's got to play their part in this.
Thanks, Martin. And Robert Clarkson, one of our reps, has asked will information be sent out to branches to aid them? So yes, 100% it will, Martin. I know, and his team with Dave are working on that. Dave, I want to come to you on politics. Be really good to get a sense from you. I think I know the answer on this one, where the government is and their relevance. But more, I suppose, wider asking you where you think the Labour Party are on this. Because, all the bets are on we have an incoming Labour government perhaps later this year. Have you been speaking to Labour, and what are they saying? Are they offering reassurance? Are they being helpful or not?
With regard to Labour, yes, we've spoken to the Labour leader. We've spoken to a number of the ministers, shadow ministers, and that dialogue's ongoing, as you would expect. They've clearly got concerns. As I understand it, they've written to Vaser today, making it clear where they stand in relation to asking all of the right questions that we've talked about here tonight and what Vaser's intentions are. So, I think there will be political leverage in this debate for sure. The government's position, we're awaiting a meeting with the government. I'm sure that will take place. They will have a dilemma as well, because this government they have to undertake the security investigation. And at that point, they have to reach an agreement, as we understand it, with Vaser, that things like the USO, I think people will be asking the question of people's pensions, not just the union, but the company in its further discussions with Vaser, and the government and the Labour Party will be asking those questions. So, political debate around this is going to continue and grow. And our job is to put the whole debate at the centre of the wider political issues that you see across the UK at the moment. We're going to do that, albeit there are so many political issues that you're always fighting to get it up the agenda, but it will be a big issue for the government, for Labour, and we're going to use every bit of political leverage that we can, again, to get the best outcome for our members.
Brilliant. Martin, I'm going to give you a few moments now just to sum up with any final messages you want to get across to the members tonight. Obviously, with the very sort of wide caveat that we're going to be getting out to workplaces, holding more of these sessions, and there's going to be plenty more opportunity for people to put their questions to us.
Look, the message for me is, as I said, the only people who's got your interest 100% is the CWU. And we want to engage every single branch, every single workplace over how can we support you, your concerns, if there is a new owner, which is probably the most likely scenario. And we want to protect pensions, stop the company franchising, stop the company outsourcing, but we want to make sure there's a sustainable job with good terms and conditions for our members going forward. And we will continue to meet with you. I think we've got a meeting next week, a similar show on the USO. But our commitment to you is we've got your back. Make sure you support the union.
Thanks, Martin. Brilliant. Dave, I'm going to ask you to do similar. I suppose give you a bit more of a challenge. Your final message to all those stakeholders out there, whether that's politicians, government, Royal Mail Board, VESA, our reps, the public, and of course, most importantly, our reps and members.
Well, I think my message would be, again, starting by saying we understand that this must be an anxious time for our members. On top of everything else, I mean, wow, the last couple of years, you guys have had to put up with a lot. The pandemic, the most bitter dispute, an attack unprecedented by the current board on their own employees and on the union. Not enough vision by the current board, and now a takeover potentially by a foreign equity investor. These are huge moments for the future of the company. And, you know, we are well up for dealing with this in the right way that has at its heart every single day what is the best position for you as workers and as members of our union. Secondly, what's the best position to maintain UK postal services? And in that, I'm sure we're going to get lots of allies here in customers, in political work as well. And you have a role to play in that. You know, we want sensible conversations over the coming weeks. We have to face up to realities all the time. You hear me talking about change. You know, none of this in one sense is stopping the reality that change in our industry is going to have to happen anyway. We have to make the best deal we can on that change. But I do think, in my view is this poses, an unprecedented moment for the country, not just for you as workers and for us as a trade union. And I think that there are opportunities, but there are also risks. And what we've got to do is come together. We've got to use the sort of strategies that the union has agreed at our conference. You've got to see them a bit more, and our reps have got to talk to you about those strategies. And I think once we do that, everybody get behind the messages that we're putting out, and we will have a major influence over what's going to take place in the coming weeks and months. And we're certainly coming back to you to give you further information. Today's just the start, effectively, of that process.
Thanks, Dave. Brilliant. So I want to say thank you, first of all, to Dave and to Martin for their time on the back of a really, really busy day. So thanks to you both. I want to say thanks to our tech team behind the scenes who at just a few hours' notice have put this show together and done an incredible job. We're trying to do things that no other union does here in terms of going live in the heat of the moment, taking questions and giving you the information as quickly as we possibly can. We couldn't do that without the team in the background. I think the message you've heard there from Dave, from Martin, we want those meetings going in the workplace. We're going to be getting information out to branches. Please keep following our social media channels, subscribing to YouTube, because that's important that we get those numbers up as well. And most important of all, stick with union in the workplace and turn up to those gate meetings when they're held in your office. That's going to be absolutely crucial. So we'll see you all soon. Good night, everyone, from us, and stick with your union.